The folder hit my desk at 7:43 in the morning. No email, no knock. Just Marcus, CFO of Vantage Capital Group, dropping 4 inches of printed spreadsheets in front of me like I was supposed to be grateful. There's a $4 million gap in the Q3 reconciliation, he said. Find it, fix it, and don't talk to anyone about it. He didn't say good morning. He never did. I had been contracted to Vantage for 11 weeks at that point, external forensic accountant, brought in for what the board called a routine compliance review. My badge said contractor. My desk was in the hallway outside the actual finance department, not in it, outside it, next to the printer. Marcus introduced me to his team on day 1. This is Clarissa. She'll be reviewing some ledger entries. Give her read access to the Q2 files. He paused. Just Q2? He thought I was a very expensive typist. He had no idea I had designed the encryption layer on the API his entire finance system ran on. Let me explain what Vantage Capital Group actually was. Mid-sized private equity firm. 11 portfolio companies, 230 employees across 4 floors of a glass building in downtown Chicago. Marcus had been CFO for 6 years. He reported directly to the board. He controlled every significant financial transaction that moved through the firm. He was also very good at making money disappear. Not all of it, not obviously. Small amounts, routed through 3 subsidiary LLCs that existed on paper and nowhere else. 12 transfers over 18 months. Each one under the threshold that triggered automatic compliance flags, each one landing in an account in the Cayman Islands that had no public beneficial owner on record. He had built a very clean machine. What he hadn't considered was who had built the machine ran on. 3 years before Vantage hired me, I was a senior engineer at a fintech firm called Meridian Systems. Meridian built the back-end infrastructure the half the mid-market PE firms in the country use for financial reporting. Including Vantage, I didn't just use that system. I designed the cryptographic key architecture for the API that governed data visibility permissions. Every report, every ledger view, every transaction log, what you could see and what you couldn't was controlled by a layered key structure I had written from scratch. I left Meridian on good terms. I kept my documentation. When Vantage brought me in for routine compliance, I recognized the system the moment I logged in. I said nothing. I just started reading. The $4 million gap Marcus threw on my desk that Tuesday morning was not a mistake. It was a message. He had engineered the discrepancy himself. A series of circular journal entries designed to make it look like an external contractor had introduced an error during a reconciliation process. That contractor was me. He needed a name on the report. Someone external. Someone with limited access. Someone who could be handed a box on a Friday afternoon and escorted out before the board met on Monday. He had chosen carefully. He just hadn't checked my CV carefully enough. I closed the folder. I set it to the left of my keyboard. I opened my laptop. Well, he said. He was still standing there. I'll look at it, I said. I need an answer by Thursday. Okay. If you can't find it, that's a problem. I looked up at him, just once. I'll find it, I said. He left. I turned back to my screen. He had no idea that I had already found it. I had found it 6 days earlier. I just hadn't decided what to do with it yet. There's something particular about watching someone construct a trap around you while you're sitting on the only key that unlocks the cage. Marcus spent the next 2 days being very visible, stopping by my desk, asking pointed questions. How's the review going? Finding anything interesting? Every time I gave him the same answer. Making progress. Flat, measured, nothing he could read. On Wednesday afternoon, he escalated. He walked over to my desk with the head of internal controls, a man named Peter, who looked like he genuinely didn't want to be there. Peter needs to understand the scope of your access, Marcus said. We want to make sure you haven't gone beyond what was authorized. I handed Peter my access log printout. I had printed it that morning. Q2 files, read only, as assigned, I said. Nothing beyond that. Peter looked at the sheet. He nodded. Marcus looked at the sheet. Something moved behind his eyes. What he didn't know was that my access log showed exactly what I wanted it to show. The Meridian API had a secondary administrative layer, a legacy architecture preserved from the original build. It wasn't documented in Vantage's current IT records. It predated their IT department entirely, and my original developer credentials still worked. I had been reading everything for 11 weeks. Wednesday evening, I stayed late. The floor emptied by 7. I made myself a coffee. I sat at my desk. I opened a second laptop, my personal one. The one that was not connected to Vantage's network. I had 2 things in front of me. First, a complete transaction map of all 12 subsidiary transfers with timestamps, routing codes, and the originating user credentials for every entry. Second, the full architecture diagram of the API key system I had built at Meridian, including the visibility permissions layer. The way the system worked was the way I had designed it. Every transaction had 2 states, visible and archived. The visible state was what standard users saw. The archived state was what the system actually retained. Encrypted, immutable, accessible only through the administrative layer. Marcus had been using the visible layer to route his transfers. He had assumed that what wasn't visible didn't exist. He had never read the architecture documentation. Here is what he did not understand about the system he'd been using for 6 years. The encryption keys that governed visibility were not stored at Vantage, they were stored at Meridian, in a key management server that still ran the original codebase. The viewing permissions for every transaction in the Vantage system were still governed by credentials that I had originally issued, including the credentials Marcus used to obscure his transfers. Those credentials had a viewing key, his viewing key, the one that made the transfers invisible to the standard audit layer and invisible to any external review, unless you were looking from the administrative tier. I had never revoked it. I had never needed to, but I could. Thursday morning, 8:15, Marcus called a meeting. My desk, him, Peter, and a woman from legal I hadn't met before. She had a folder. The folder had my name on the tab. "We've completed an internal review," Marcus said. "We've identified the source of the Q3 discrepancy. The journal entries in question trace back to your reconciliation work in weeks 3 and 4 of your contract." He slid a single page across to me. It had my initials on 2 entries. I looked at the page. "Those initials are fabricated," I said. "I didn't make those entries." My voice was level. "The timestamps are also wrong. I wasn't logged in during the window indicated. Our system shows." "Your system shows what was entered into the visible layer," I said. "That's not the same thing as what happened." Silence. The woman from legal looked at Marcus. "I'm going to need to end your contract today," Marcus said, "effective immediately. You'll receive your final payment. We ask that you return your badge, and I'd like 1 hour." I said, "Excuse me? 1 hour before I leave to finalize my documentation?" He hesitated. He looked at legal. She gave a small shrug. He nodded. 1 hour. I walked back to my desk. I opened my personal laptop. I did not document anything. I logged into the Meridian key management server. My original developer credentials, still valid. The session opened in 4 seconds. I navigated to the Vantage Capital Group instance. 6 years of transaction data. All of it sitting in the encrypted archive layer, intact, immutable, exactly as it had always been. I located Marcus's administrative credentials, the key pair that governed his visibility permissions across the finance system. The same key that had been hiding 12 transfers across 3 phantom LLCs for 18 months. I did not delete anything. There was nothing to delete. The data was already there. It had always been there. I revoked the viewing suppression flag on his credential set. One click. What that meant, in practical terms. Every transaction Marcus had routed through the suppression layer was now fully visible to the standard audit tier. To every compliance integration the system fed, including the two government reporting AP, is that Vantage was legally required to maintain, including the IRS automated audit feed. I closed the session. I closed the laptop. I picked up my badge. I set it on Marcus's desk on the way out. He was on a call. He didn't look up. I was in my car by 9:51. At 11:07, I received a call from Peter in internal controls. His voice was very careful. Clarissa, we've had some flags come through on the compliance system. I'm not sure you're aware, but there appear to be some transactions that weren't previously visible in our standard audit view. The system is showing... I know, I said, a long pause. Did you... I restored the default visibility settings on a legacy API key architecture, I said. The data was always there. It was never deleted. I simply removed a suppression flag that shouldn't have existed. Another pause. Longer. I see, Peter said. You should probably call your outside counsel, I said, and notify the board before Marcus does. I hung up. The board was notified at 1:30 that afternoon. Marcus was placed on administrative leave at 3:15. The IRS acknowledged receipt of the audit flag at 4:02. Automated, no human involved. The system did exactly what it was designed to do. By Friday morning, the FBI had issued a preservation order on Vantage's financial records. Marcus was formally terminated the following Monday, the same day he had originally planned to hand mine to the board. I received my final contract payment on Tuesday on time, with a short note from Vantage's board chair that said simply, "Thank you for your thoroughness." I didn't respond. There was nothing to say. The system had worked exactly as I designed it. So people spend years building machines to protect themselves. They just forget to ask who built the machine first. Was revoking that key enough, or should she have done it sooner?